audience, so they can answer the questions that you have. There's one that is a valedictorian, one is salutatorian. So we just go to our honorable mention. Brother Ronnie is honorable mention.
Honorable not mentioned. Honorable but not mentioned.
Honorable not mentioned. Okay. So today we are studying about spiritualism, and the code that we have is ST. And the introduction to this is one of Satan's most effective ways to deceive. Underscore the word deceive. Humanity is through counterfeit supernatural manifestations. So we are talking about the way Satan would do things that are supernatural in nature, and what he uses in order to achieve his objective. Now, in our study last night during the Vespers, there has been a notion that because there will be only two sides, the side of God and the side of Satan, that Satan will do all he can to deceive and destroy those who are in God's side. And there is a thinking that those who are in his side, he will protect them. No, Satan is in no way protecting anybody. He has already those in his side that he will ultimately destroy. Those in his side are those people who will swim with him in the lake of fire. He is already sure. But here, the elect, he wants also to pull them, to deceive them, so that he will have as many people as he can to swim with him in the lake of fire. So the business of Satan is deception. And he has been using spiritualism in his quest to deceive people. He has used it before, he is using it now, and he will use it until the end of time. Before the close of probation, even after the close of probation, Satan will still continue to deceive his followers, not the people of God anymore, because it has been what? It has been determined already who will be saved and who will be not. Now let's go to the first verse. And very interestingly, the first verse that we have is found in Exodus. And there are some words that I took the liberty of having a definition. So I would like to, whatever I put in here is a caption of what is in the verse. If I put quotes, that means I quoted the verse itself. But if it is plain like this, then it is for me the summary of what is in the verse. Somebody reads this, please.
Then Pharaoh called the wise men and the sorcerers. Now the magicians of Egypt, they also did in like manner with their enchantments. For they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. And he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them as the Lord.
Now, this was the experience of Moses and Aaron. They were given the command by God to go and save his people. And they were there before Pharaoh, and they started doing some supernatural things. And that is, Aaron just dropped his stick and it became a serpent. And that was supernaturally done. Because by the power of Aaron or Moses, it couldn't be done. So what came next? Pharaoh called the wise men. Now, never mind the wise men if they are really wise. But there are two groups here, the sorcerers and the magicians of Egypt. And they came and they did also the same thing that Aaron did with the rod. Could the wise men, the sorcerers, and magicians turn their sticks into serpents? No, it was also a supernatural manifestation. So here, Moses and Aaron turned the rod into a snake. It was supernatural. Here, the sorcerers and the magicians turned their rods into snake. It was also supernatural. But there is something that happened next. The snake of Aaron swallowed all the snakes. So I could just imagine how embarrassing it was for the sorcerers and the magicians to go around without the rods. maybe somebody was laughing at them. But the point there is they did something supernaturally. Now, let me give you some definition. Number one is sorcerer. Who is a sorcerer? According to the dictionary, a sorcerer is a person who practices sorcery. That is something I do not like. My professor said, if you define a word, do not use the word to what? Do not use the word to define what you're defining. So here, sorcerer practices sorcery. So I went to sorcery. What is it? The use of power gained from the assistance of what? Evil angels, especially in divining. It is also synonymous to necromancy. Now, very important things in here. They have power that they gain from evil angels. And it is not coming from Ellen G. White, it comes from the dictionary. So what am I saying here? Even during the time of Moses, there were already people who were having connection with evil angels. So here, Aaron and Moses did their stuff, they turned the rod into a snake by the power coming from God. Here, the other party turned their snakes into, the rods into snake by the power that they get from the evil angels. It's very plain. Now we go to the other definition, divining. Because it says here, especially for divining. What is the meaning of the word divining? To seek or predict future events or discover hidden knowledge, usually by the interpretation of omens or by what? The aid of supernatural powers. Telling the future. With the aid of supernatural powers, that is divining. And then the word necromancy. Conjuration of the spirits of the dead for purpose of magically revealing the future or influencing the course of events. Starting from sorcery to divining to necromancy, all these words have to do with connection with the dead, the spirit of the dead. Well, we will go to that later on because the primary teaching of this is the dead is not dead. The dead is not dead. So, let's go to the next. For that portion of the Bible where Moses and Aaron turned their rods into snake, the magicians, the sorcerers, the wise men also were able to do it in the power of another one. And that is their connection with the evil spirits. Number 2, Leviticus 19 verse 31. Now I quoted it here. So it is here. You can read it directly from what I put in here. What did God say through Moses to the Israelites? Brother Ismail, will you please read it? 31.
Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God.
Now, this is coming from the New King James Version. It says, give no regard to the mediums and to familiar spirits. Do not seek after them to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. So, if we follow the thought in here, the mediums and the familiar spirits defile. They go against the will of God. So let's go again to some definition. Mediums. Who are mediums? Or medium, if it is singular, mediums plural. So a medium is an individual held to be a channel, underscore that, a channel of communication between the earthly and a world of spirits. If a person is a medium, that person's work is to connect someone who goes to him with the world of spirits. Of course, as we go on to the study, the medium will connect you to the spirits of the dead, if there is such as a spirit of the dead. We'll go later on who they are trying to approach. Now, how about familiar spirits? Familiar spirits, a demon, a spirit or demon that serves or prompts an individual. The spirit of a dead person invoked by a medium to advise or to prophesy. So if this is a spirit, it is called a familiar spirit. Here is a medium. One person can use a medium to connect himself to a familiar spirit. That person, this person, will not be able to go directly to the familiar spirit without a medium. So that is how important it is to have a medium, because the medium is someone who says that he has connection with the spirits. And they do not usually do it for free. They do it for a fee. And mediums are gaining money, especially mediums who cater to the needs of those who are celebrities. If you go to, which I don't want you to go right now, to New Age movement, they have very, very rich mediums. Why? Because their clients are not ordinary people. They are rich people who want to connect with someone out of this world. So we have familiar spirits. The spirit of the dead that is floating around is also called a familiar spirit. The person who connects you to the familiar spirit is a medium. Now, let's go to the next. Leviticus 20 verses, is this 26? Yeah, 6 and 7? Or 6 and 27? Let me see. Somebody read. Sometimes my finger does not cooperate with the numbers, so.
I got it.
And the person who turns to mediums and familiar spirits to prostitute himself with them, I will set my face against that person and cut him off from his people.
Okay, verse 27. Did you read 27 too?
Not yet.
Okay,
A
please.
man or a woman who is a medium or who has familiar spirits shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones. Their blood shall be upon them.
Can you stone somebody with water? No. You stone with stones. But here we see the punishment of those who seek medium, the punishment of those who have familiar spirits is what? They can be what? They will be cut off from God's people and death. They will be stoned to death. There's a reason why the kings of Israel, when Saul became a king, he made it against the law for mediums to practice. And ultimately, he himself went to seek for a medium. Yes, Brother Ronnie.
Pastor, how do these mediums acquire their knowledge, their ability?
It is not a knowledge, it is not an ability, it is given them by the familiar spirits. And if we say familiar spirits, we are going by the definition. A familiar spirit is supposed to be the spirit of the dead. But if we go on to the study about the state of the dead, we do not have anything such as a familiar spirit. Because as far as the Bible is concerned, there are only two components of an individual. Number one is the dust. Number two is the breath of life. The breath of life is also called the spirit. And when life departs, what happened? The equation is broken. The dust goes to the ground. And the spirit, which is the breath of life, goes back to God. It is not another entity that is floating around, looking at you, wondering what you will do, looking if you will get married again. And he will tickle your butt if you will have a relationship with somebody else.
Therefore, Pastor, anybody could be a medium.
Well, a person who gives himself to Satan can be a medium. Because a person who is a medium is not, I emphasize, is not connected with the spirits of the dead. They are connected with fallen angels. So they cannot what? They cannot do anything unless they surrender and submit themselves to the power of Satan. So, I don't know if all mediums knowingly surrender themselves to Satan, but that is the exact thing that is being done. They cannot communicate with spirits. Let's remember that the angels are spirits. They're spiritual beings. If you connect with the spirits, you are connecting with angels, and we will see later on, that appear to be the person who died, who you want to communicate with. And this is something that is very, very dangerous. Now let's go to the next. Let's go to Deuteronomy 18:10-12. We are just looking at the terms that the Bible uses about persons that can do supernatural things by the assistance of supernatural beings. Somebody read this part, please. Deuteronomy 18:10-12.
There shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or one who practices witchcraft, or a soothsayer, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer,
Up to 12.
or one who conjures spells, or a medium or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For all who do these things are an abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord your God drives them out from before you.
Now, here are three words or three professions that are listed in here. And never mind the other things, but God has given specific words to the children of Israel. Do not do this, do not do this, do not do this. But again, these are words. There are people that practice witchcraft, are soothsayers and spiritists. So let us go first to witchcraft. And this is now where I would like to give warning to parents. Because many of what little ones are watching will have witchcraft. And this is what Satan wants us to do. It is what? It is something that is very innocent. And it's just a game. It's just something that they will just play, and they do not even know what it is. But in their minds, Satan is working to inculcate the idea about spiritualism. Now, what is a witchcraft? Witchcraft, the use of sorcery or magic. We have learned it earlier what sorcery is. We have learned earlier what magic is. But another definition of witchcraft is communication with the devil or with a familiar spirit. What is a familiar spirit? It is supposed to be the spirit of the dead. But in the knowledge that we have, it is not the spirit of the dead. It is one of the angels of Satan. So witchcraft, I tell you, I haven't watched a single movie of Harry Potter. I haven't read a single book of Harry Potter. But they have turned this into billions of dollars. Yet, witchcraft is one of the themes of this book and themes of the movies. And we let our kids watch, and we let our kids read, and Satan is using these books and these movies to brainwash our little ones so that they will not know the difference between good and evil. This is witchcraft, communication with the devil or with the familiar spirit. That's the reason why God was very, very strong in His words. No witchcraft in Israel. No sorcery in Israel. Nobody with what? With familiar spirit in Israel. They will be excommunicated or they will be stoned with stones. How about Soothsayer? Soothsayer is a person who predicts the future by magical intuitive. Well, anybody who tells the future with magical intuitive. Now you go to your horoscope. You drive down Balboa. If I go home, on the left is a fortune teller. Down is a palm reader. And they have people who play the Ouija boards. There are people who play black magic. There are people who play the what? The spirit of the glass. These are instruments of Satan. You know, the Ouija board and the spirit of the glass, you can just, I haven't gone to any of these sessions, but they say If you believe, you put your hand on top of the glass. Do not put your hand on the glass, but above the glass. And you ask, there is what? A, B, C, D, W. If you ask a question, the Spirit will move. If as long as you put your hand above the glass, the Spirit will move and spell the answer to your question. Who else will be able to do that but a familiar spirit? Yes, Brother Ronnie.
Pastor, I've experienced that during my teenage days.
You're no longer teenage. How many years ago?
Oh, I can't remember. You know the strongest spirit we ever played? Spirit of Saint Jude.
Okay. And I think Saint Jude doesn't even have a spirit.
I don't know, but we played that. I don't know that it's bad.
Yeah,
What?
I'm not yet an Adventist.
me
What?
too, Pastor. I wasn't an Adventist yet, and we were in high school, and me and my friends were playing the Spirit of the Glass, and it scares the heck out of us because the glass really moved.
Yeah.
And that's it. We didn't play afterwards.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if my wife went to a session, but she is saying that the glass moves.
Yes, it does move.
See, I think I will disfellowship you.
Pastor, because you pray and you ask for a specific spirit.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing. And I'm so naive on that. I mean, I didn't know that. I was looking back now. I was like, oh my goodness, I was diving into the dark world. And I'm not anymore.
Our brother Isma, you have an experience too?
Yeah, when we were in high school, we have a friend, Pastor. We bought this
Ouija board.
in Hong Kong. Then I was just there because I don't believe. They want to, see if that's true. So I was there just looking at them because they're not Adventists. But the spirit won't, it won't start because they said that everybody should, should touch the glass. So I was, obliged to do it. And then at first they were all excited. The glass is moving so fast. And then they got scared because all of the questions that they're asking are true. These are revelation who are their crushes. And then all of a sudden they got all scared because all the revelation are true.
Yeah.
They were looking at each other, and all of a sudden the host he tried to hit the glass, but the glass went up again and did not want to stop. He wants to to continue. So we decided to just go home that night.
You left the glass.
Yeah, I left the glass.
Yeah, when you left, the glass was still moving. The glass was what? The glass was coming up with revelations.
It was really, that was really an experience.
Those are what? Those are spirits. Those are spirits. Now this soothsayer, we have synonyms like diviner, fortune teller, foreteller. These are synonyms of the soothsayers. And then you look at this: witchcraft, sorcery, familiar spirit, and then the spiritist. Now, when I look at the word spiritist, you know what? The dictionary pointed me to another word. You know what that? Spiritualism. It does not give a definition of the word spiritist. It pointed me to the word spiritualism. And what is spiritualism? I believe that spirits of the dead communicate with the living, usually through a medium. That is it. Communication with the spirit of the dead through a medium. Yes, Mylene.
How do you distinguish, Pastor, like in the case of Joseph, how when the dreamer,
Yeah.
he was given the dream, and then all his dreams came true. And then during the time of Nebuchadnezzar, when someone will interpret his dream, and all these soothsayers or whatever were called, and then Daniel was called to interpret that. So
The difference.
so how do you then, like, say for example, in a church, somebody all of a sudden is saying, "Oh, I know your future," and
I think that's about dream.
Now, as far as Daniel and Joseph are concerned, maybe it is a blow at us because I know that these people have a very close connection with God. In fact, they have even the experience of talking with God, not face to face, but they hear the voice of God. And they know when there is someone talking to them, they are so familiar with the voice of God that they know already that somebody else is talking with them if it is not God. And as far as Daniel is concerned, when Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, he went to God. If God did not give the dream to Nebuchadnezzar, he would have said, Daniel, I did not give the dream to Nebuchadnezzar. But the fact that, no, there is something here. Even God knows the secrets that the evil spirits would reveal. So if it was given by an evil spirit, God will know. And he would have told Daniel about it. But the fact that it was God who gave Nebuchadnezzar the dream and removed the dream from him, he gave the meaning, or the dream and the meaning, to Nebuchadnezzar. And also Joseph. Now, how I wish I had the ability to interpret dreams so that you will come every Sabbath, line up, and tell me your dream, and I will know more. I will know more about you. And there is a catch in here, because in the experience of Nebuchadnezzar, God did not even allow Nebuchadnezzar to know his dream. Because if you tell me your dream, then I can just manufacture a meaning to your dream, an interpretation. But God saw to it that Nebuchadnezzar will not know, will not remember the dream. He just remembered the dream when Daniel told him. And when God gave the meaning through Daniel, he was so impressed. And we will know what? We will know spirits. We will know. Bible says, test the spirits. So why do we have to test the spirit? Because by the law and testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no what? There is no light in them. There's a reason why we have to test. Yes, Brother Ronnie.
I have a clear experience regarding family death. While I was working in Saudi Arabia, while I was working in Saudi Arabia, way back 1983, I'm a timekeeper, and I told the people, okay, it's already time, go, disperse. They're in a group, and I attempted to see what they're doing. That man, a Muslim by the name of Sajid Ahmed, an Indian, is reading the palm. And I'm not interested, but come, do you want your palm to be read? No. Left hand. He told me, you are the firstborn child of your mother. Well, I'm not saying correct. Then your mother remarried. The firstborn is a male and the others are female. Or, I did not know comment, but it's correct. And he told me, you will live in a faraway land from your land, Philippines. I said, yes, because I'm here. No. Now I realize I'm living in California less than 4 years. What can you say about that, Pastor?
Okay, number one. When your Indian friend told you about your past, that is easy because the spirits know your past. That you are the firstborn child. that you're what? That your mother remarried to a man, not to a woman. And you have siblings. Because those were already past. It would have been different, it said, if your mother was widowed, and the Spirit will say, you know what? Your mother will remarry someone from California. That is already a prediction. But what the Spirit was talking about was something that was already a fact. Well, even if he is just looking at your hand, there is that Spirit behind him that is talking as to what he will tell you. Next, he told you you will what? You will live in a faraway land. No, this is something that the spirits do. They look into circumstances in your life and they will come up with predictions.
But he lacked prediction.
Mm-hmm.
He did not mention to me that my wife will be a strict and dagger.
I think the what? I think the spirit does not know. So in the experience of Brother Ronnie, we can see that the Spirit knows.
Pastor, it is true. I'm serious.
The Spirit knows already what is past. The Spirit does not know the future. Remember, only God is omniscient. Only God is omniscient. He knows the beginning to the end. The evil spirits will only have guessed. The Holy Spirit will do estimates. One thing that they do is they look into the tendencies that you have. If your tendency, your walk is going that way, they will come up with a prediction that will what? That will be in line with the things that you do in life. Now, maybe the Spirit knew that you in your talk with friends, you were talking about your desire to go to the United States or to Canada. And the Spirit has heard those. So, it is very easy for the Spirit. So,
I have a question.
yes.
What about those people like my mom still do that? She will go to like she called it spiritista, and then they give some like animal, and then he will cut the animal into half, and the blood he will sprinkle, and then that guy or that person will tell what's wrong with my mom or what's illness, and then he or she will perform like I don't know what kind of ritual. But my mom will have a temporary relief, which it just happened recently, and then after how many days or weeks, it's even worse. You call that spiritism?
Yeah, spiritista. Sister, that is nothing new. Because one of the reasons why God allowed Nebuchadnezzar to forget the dream is they had the practice before that if they cut a liver, they will see the formations, and out of that they can tell something in the future. They have put a drop of oil in the water, and they will look at the formations. They will come up with meanings for that. Let us remember that we are dealing with spiritual beings. So here we have spiritualism. Now let's go to the next. Here. Somebody read 1 Chronicles 10 verse 13. This is the 5th verse that you have. 10 verse 13, 1 Chronicles.
So Saul died for his transgression which he committed against the Lord, even against the word of the Lord which he kept not, and also for asking counsel of one that had familiar spirit to inquire of it.
Look at this. is the king of Israel. He was the one who made a decree that all the mediums should die. But somewhere there is a medium. There was a medium who escaped the death decree of Saul. And you know what? That was one of the worst mistakes of Saul. He went to what? He went to consult the witch of Endor, the medium of Endor. And he died because of that. So Saul consulted a medium, which is very, very, very against the commands of the Lord. And this is very, very sad. Now, let me tell you this. This is very, very sad. Especially when a loved one is sick. And there is a spiritist nearby who has already shown a track record that he or she could heal. You know what? It is a very big temptation for you to go also to the spiritist. You go to the spiritist, you're subjecting yourself to the medium. Now let's go to the next verse. Now this is one of the verses that I like in this study. Isaiah 8, 19 and 20. God, through Isaiah, was talking to the children of Israel. You seek those who are mediums and wizards who whisper and mutter. And then a question, should not a people seek their God? So there are two things that could happen. You seek the familiar spirits using mediums or sorcerers. All they do is whisper and mutter. And then the question is, should not the people seek their God? Should they seek the dead on behalf of the living? Of course, the answer is no. And then the last part in verse 20, to the law. Testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. The opposite of light is darkness. If there is no light in them, that means there is darkness in them. Why go to them? Why not go and seek the Lord? Yes.
Going back to King Saul, Pastor, wasn't he wasn't it like a last recourse for him? Because like on the first place, he tried asking God, he tried talking to God, but then God did not talk back to him. And what is his other recourse?
No choice.
No, actually, the thing is, actually, I don't know if it is before or after, but Saul came, or Samuel came. He was just impatient. He was just impatient. He was waiting for Saul, but Saul didn't come the time that he needed advice, he needed direction from the Lord. He did not come. No, Samuel was already dead.
Yeah, during that time.
That's the reason why he went. Now, this is very interesting because he went to the medium. He went to the witch. He did not ask the medium to give him direction. What did he do? He asked the medium to let Saul appear, or Samuel appear. And he asked Samuel direction. Now, there is something wrong in the way the witch of Endor did things. Samuel was a good man. If the belief is right that a good man goes to heaven, He should have called Samuel coming from heaven going down. But where did Samuel come from? From the earth. From down. So that was the mistake of the witch of Endor. He didn't know the directions where to get Samuel from. But again, it's just what? It's just a apparition. It is the children of the Israelites. There is no other recourse. Why? Because that was the last step of Saul in his turning his back against God. Because there's been a consistent turning his back against God, and that was the last resort. Okay, let's go to the next. Now, here, seek those who are mediums and wizards. I went to the dictionary to find out what a wizard is. A wizard is one skilled in magic or a sorcerer, having magical influence or power. I don't know why the Washington players named their team the Washington Wizards. That means they had power, they had the skill, they can do magic on the court. They're good. But the actual meaning is one skilled in magic, a sorcerer, having magical influence or power. Now let's go to Revelation. This is part of what we studied in the last few Vespers. We studied about the 7 last plagues. This is the last plague. The 6th plague. This is the plague that comes before Jesus Christ appears in heaven. Please read 16 to 13, because 13 to 15, this is something that Satan will do. He will go, he will what? He will use evil spirits to influence the rulers and the leaders of churches and kings. So they will prepare themselves for the ultimate battle between good and evil. Can somebody read, please?
And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out the mouth of the beast, and out the mouth of the false prophet. For they are spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty.
I will not discuss about the details of the 6th plague. Whether it's literal what or Armageddon, we have discussed this at night. But the 3 entity, the dragon, who is the dragon? Who is the beast? The papacy. The false prophet is the United States. This is what they call the False Trinity. The False Trinity will do everything they can to bring people under their power. They will even use unclean spirits of the devils. And they can influence all people in the world. Of course, we remember that this is already the 6th plague. There has been a division already of people, those who have the mark of the beast and worship the image of the beast, and those who have the seal of God and worship the God of creation. So, from the time of Aaron and Moses up to the time just before Jesus Christ will appear, evil spirits, sorcerers, spiritualism will play its role in the deception of many. So these are the first 7 verses. If you haven't gotten them, you can take a picture before I go to the next a few more verses. Then you have this, right? I can now go to the next verse. The next verse is found in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, 13 to 15. This is now what will happen deception-wise as far as Satan, his angels, and his ministers. Somebody read the verse, 2 Corinthians 11, 13 to 15.
For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into apostles of Christ. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works.
So, what does this statement tell us? Satan, in the process of wanting to deceive people, can turn himself as an angel of what? Angel of light. His angels too can appear like good angels. By their fruit you shall know them. And then the ministers of Satan, those who have been working under him to deceive people, teaching false doctrines, they can also appear as ministers of righteousness. So the verse tells us, beware. You should be able to discern which is true and what is false.
So, for example, Pastor, if there is for example, apostle or somebody that claiming that they are angels, they're helping a lot of people, giving donations, feeding people, food and everything. Then all of a sudden, let's go to church on Sunday. So that means you know already that these are God's spirits, even though they're boasting to be like good angels.
Remember, angels are spirits, like I said earlier, but they can appear in the form of human beings. Ellen G. White was very clear when she said that during the trial of Jesus Christ, there were evil angels in the form of men. And they were influencing those people to go against Jesus Christ. And so angels can come in the appearance of men. They might be doing good. They could come like one of the apostles, have beard and mustache and a garment of camel hair, and they eat honey and locusts, and they have beard like Pastor Ariola, and he is the Old Testament prophet. But you know what? You have to go back again to the standard. And what is the standard? To the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. If they speak truth 99% and 1% falsehood, it is still false. 99% clear water and 1 drop of poison, it is a poisoned glass of water. So we should be very, very careful. He's very careful. Let's go to the next. 1 Timothy 4 verse 1. This is a warning that even in the last days, I hope it will not be in the church, but said in the latter days, some will depart from the what? From the faith. And what will happen? Giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons. Wow. And who will this be? Who will this people, or these people who come from the faith? Who will depart from the faith? They have been members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They have not been grounded in the truth. That's the reason why they have been deceived And because the doctrines of the devil has been sugar-coated, and it's very easy to swallow and to eat, it's very easy for them to receive and take it to these doctrines. And this is a warning. I hope that none from San Fernando Valley will fulfill this prediction. In the latter days, some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons. You know what? As far as Bible marking is concerned, that is the last verse.
Pastor, totoo po bang, is it true that Manalo is the founder of Iglesia ni Cristo, used to be a Seventh-day Adventist?
It is not this Manalo now, but the older Manalo. The Manalo, yeah. It's Felix Manalo. This one now is Erasto Manalo. Iranyo Manalo, the former founder of Manalo Iglesia ni Cristo, was a Seventh-day Adventist. There was, I don't know the details, but there was a problem, I think, with a secretary. And people who depart from the faith usually have axe to grind. There is an acquaintance of mine. He was the youth director of the union in North Philippines. You know what? He is now very, very busy trying to tear down the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Okay. Now, I said that is the last what? Last verse, but that is not the last thing that I will show. You know what I did? I went to the spirit of prophecy, and I hope that will be helped by some of the quotations that I'm bringing you this afternoon. First, this quotation coming from Acts of the Apostles. It is fondly supposed that hidden superstitions have disappeared before the civilization of the 20th century. But the Word of God and the stern testimony of facts declare that what? Sorcery is practiced in this age as verily as in the days of the old-time magicians. The ancient system of magic is, in reality, the same as what is now known as modern spiritualism. Satan is finding access to thousands of minds by presenting himself under the guise of departed friends. The scriptures declare that the dead know not anything. Ecclesiastes 9 verse 5. Their thoughts, their love, their hatred have perished. The dead do not hold communion with the living. But true to his early cunning, Satan employs this device in order to gain control of minds. Anybody, whether the person is a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church or a member of other persuasions, anybody who believes in the immortality of the soul is a target of Satan. Next quotation. It is still coming from Acts of the Apostles. Through spiritualism, many of the sick, the bereaved, the curious are communicating with evil spirits. All who venture to do this are on dangerous ground. The word of truth declares how God regards them. In ancient times, he pronounced a stern judgment on a king who had sent for counsel to a heathen oracle. Is it not because there is not a God in Israel? I think that was King Azariah, that ye go and inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron. And then, now therefore, saith the Lord, thou shalt not come down from bed on which thou art gone, but shalt surely die. 2 Kings 1, 3 and 4. The king got sick, and he sent his people to have consultation with Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, and Elisha met them and said, is it because there is no God in Israel? And he said, go back to your king and tell him that he will not get well. He will surely die. Acts of the Apostles 219. Now, here's another one. I'm just bringing this to you to give us more enlightenment as far as this topic is concerned. This is CET, Christian Experience and Teachings of Ellen G. White, page 251. In relating her early visions, Mrs. White graphically portrayed the experiences through which the Adventist people were to pass before the Lord should come. At a time when the manifestations of spiritualism were confined to the mysterious wrapping in Rochester, New York, she was shown the rapid and phenomenal growth that cult would make in the future. Now, take note of the term mysterious wrappings, and I will bring that to you later. But the start of modern spiritualism was because of the mysterious wrappings in Rochester, New York. Let me tell you, they were not Seventh-day Adventists, but the enemy, Satan, communicated with them, and they played with the enemy. Now, through the two great errors, number one, the immortality of the soul, and number two, Sunday sacredness, Satan will bring the people under his deceptions. While the former lays the foundation of spiritualism. What is the foundation of spiritualism? The belief on the immortality of the soul. The belief that when a person dies, he has a separate entity that goes out, and that is immortal. The belief that the body is only matter, and there is something inside of this matter, that when the person dies, it is this matter that dies, and it is like a prison house. It releases the spirit. Sometimes they call the soul. That is the foundation of spiritualism. The later, which is the sacredness of Sunday, creates a bond of sympathy with Rome. The Protestants of the United States will be foremost in stretching their hands across the gulf to grasp the hand of spiritualism. They will reach over the abyss to clasp hands with the Roman power. And under the influence of this threefold union, this country will follow the steps of Rome in trampling the rights of conscience. Let's go. If you want these quotations, I can separate them and email them to you. By the decree of enforcing the institution of the papacy in violation of the law of God, our nation will disconnect herself fully from righteousness. When Protestantism shall stretch her arm and her hand across the gulf to grasp the hand of the Roman power, when she shall reach over the abyss to clasp hands with spiritualism, when under the influence of the threefold union, Protestantism and papacy and spiritualism, our country shall repudiate every principle in its constitution as a Protestant and Republican government, and shall make provision for the propagation of papal falsehoods and delusions, then we may know that the time has come for the marvelous workings of Satan and the time that the end is near. This will still be in the future. And when we see this fulfilled, Satan will do wonders that we have never seen before. We have never seen before. Through spiritualism, Satan appears as a benefactor of the race, healing the diseases of people and professing to present a new and more exalted system of religious faith. Let us remember, when God allows Satan to inflict illness on people, he will do it. And when he inflicts illness on people, he has also the power to remove that illness. And it will appear that Satan has made the person well. And people just go and line up to the spiritists. When we were still in the Philippines, there was a very, very famous spiritist. His name was Agpawa in Baguio. And he had a mansion. And people will line up kilometers going to Agpawa. They would pay. Like I said earlier, they will not do it for nothing. They will do it for a fee. And he became very sick. I don't know what happened to him. But eventually, I think it was found out that it was a hoax. But at the same time, he works as a destroyer. His temptations are leading multitudes to ruin, intemperance, dethrones reason, sensual indulgence, strife, and bloodshed follows. Satan delights in war, for it excites the worst passions of the soul, and then sweeps into eternity. His victims steep in vice and blood. It is his object to incite the nations to war against one another, for he can thus divert the minds of the people from the work of preparation to stand the day of God. Counsels on Health 460. There is a book called Darkness Before Dawn. Among the most successful agencies of the great deceiver are the delusive teachings and lying wonders of spiritualism. Disguised as an angel of light, he spreads his nets where least suspected. If men would but study the book of God with earnest prayer that they might understand it, they would not be left in darkness to receive false doctrines. But as they reject the truth, they fall a prey to deception. Satan is very, very busy. Now, I think this is from the same book, The Doctrine of Men's Consciousness in Death. Especially the belief that spirits of the dead return to minister to the living has prepared the way for modern spiritualism. If the dead are admitted into the presence of God and holy angels and privileged with knowledge far exceeding that they before possessed, why should they not return to the earth to enlighten and instruct the living? If, as taught by popular theologians, the spirits of the dead are hovering about their friends on earth, why should they not be permitted to communicate with them, to warn them against evil, or to comfort them in sorrow? How can those who believe in men's consciousness in death reject what comes to them as divine light communicated by glorified spirits? Here is a channel regarded as sacred, through which Satan works for the accomplishments of his purposes. The fallen angels who do his bidding appear as messengers from the spirit world, while professing to bring the living into communication with the dead. The prince of evil exercises his bewitching influence upon their minds. Another one from, I think there were a chapter or two, or talking about modern spiritualism. It is true that spiritualism is now changing its form and veiling some of its more objectionable features, is assuming a Christian guise. So many of the Christian religions are accepting spiritualism, but its utterances from the platform and the press have been before the public for many years. And in this, its real character stands revealed. These teachings cannot be denied or hidden. As spiritualism more closely imitates the nominal Christianity of the day, it has greater power to deceive and ensnare. Satan himself is converted or changed after the modern order of things. He will appear in the character of an angel of light. Through the agency of spiritualism, miracles will be wrought. The sick will be healed, and many undeniable wonders will be performed. And as the spirits will profess faith in the Bible and manifest respect for the institutions of the church, their work will be accepted as manifestation of divine power. They will accept, but ultimately they will not accept everything. Ultimately they will say, I came from the realms of heaven. I have been with God. I have been with angels. I have a new message to bring you. You know what? Here comes Apostle Paul. The things that I wrote before, I now recant. God has told me new truth. And here is someone in the form of Moses. He comes, you know what, the 10 Commandments that God has given me on Mount Sinai. God said, I swear, I came before the God of heaven. It is no longer binding. And if it's no longer binding, you know, it is against the will of God for you to worship on Saturday. You should now worship on Sunday. Those are things that we should be aware of. Okay, I gave you the source first, because the next one will have to do with the mysterious wrappings. The author that was quoted in this encyclopedia is Later Brown. The title of the article is The Heyday of Spiritualism. It was written in 1970. Because we might be wondering, what is this mysterious wrappings or mysterious knockings? Where did it all come from? Did it come from the Seventh-day Adventist Church? Here is what is found in this source. Rochester wrappings. The outbreak of wrappings that occurred in Hayesville near Rochester, New York in 1848. It was just 4 years after 1844 and after Ellen G. White was called to be the messenger of God, and which became popular known as the Rochester wrappings, was a peculiar importance, not because of its intrinsic superiority to other liturgious disturbance, but because it inaugurated the movement of what? Modern spiritualism. So even non-Adventist writers trace back the beginning of modern spiritualism to 1848. The wrappings, the mysterious wrappings in Rochester, New York. Hattiesville is a small village in Arcadia, Wayne County, New York. And there, in 1848, lived John D. Fox with his wife and two young daughters. The name of the daughters were Margareta, age 15, and Kate, age 12. Their house was a small wooden structure previously tenanted by Michael Wickman. Remember, they were not the original occupants, who afterward claimed that he had frequently been disturbed by knockings and other strange sounds in the Hattiesville house. So here, Michael Wickman, the original tenant, did not tell the Foxes that he had been disturbed by rappings or other noises from the house. And he said it afterwards. Towards the end of March 1848, the Fox family was disturbed by mysterious rappings. And on the evening of the 31st, March 31st, 1848, they went to bed early hoping to get some undisturbed sleep. But the rappings broke out even more vigorously than they had on previous occasions. And what happened? Mrs. Fox, much alarmed and excited when the raps manifested signs of intelligence, decided to call in her neighbors to witness the phenomenon. Oh, come on, I have something to show you. So they went. The neighbors heard the raps distinctly, and it was decided to try to communicate with the unseen forces. Questions were asked by the sitters of this informal seance. If the answer was in the affirmative, the raps were heard. So it is yes or no. If in the negative, there was silence, no rap. By this means, the knocker indicated that he was a ghost. The spirit of a peddler who had been murdered for his money by the former resident of the house. Oh boy. The raps also answered correctly other questions relating to the ages of those present and other particulars concerning persons who live in the neighborhood. Oh. In the few days immediately following, hundreds of people made their way to Hattiesville to witness the marvel. Fox's married son, they had a son named David, who lived about 2 miles from his father's house, recorded a statement to the fact that the Fox family, following the directions of the raps, which indicated that the peddler was buried in the cellar, and began to dig early in April, that was 1848, but were stopped by water. Becoming spooky. Later, however, hair, bones, and teeth were found in the cellar. Vague rumors were afloat. The peddler had visited the village one winter, had been seen in the kitchen of the house afterward inhabited by the Foxes, and had mysteriously disappeared without fulfilling his promise to the villagers to return the next day. There was not a scrap of real evidence, whether for the murder or for the existence of the peddler, particulars of whose life were furnished by the raps. Soon after these happenings, Kate Fox went to Auburn, and Margareta to Rochester, New York, where her married sister Leah lived. And at both places, outbreaks of rappings subsequently followed. New mediums sprang up, circles were formed, and soon spiritualism started. It started there. When they moved, the rappings followed, not only in that house, but also in the house where they went. There's a book that is called Believe His Prophets by Derek E. Ribbach. He wrote it in 1955. He used to work in the E.G. White state. Now, there is also a book entitled Believe His Prophet, but it was by another author. This one, take note that this one was written by Denton Ribbach. And I would like to give something that Ribbach said. The test of fulfilled predictions. Predictions of things to come are of interest to everybody. For without exemption, we like to peer through the veil of the future. Making predictions or foretelling is but one phrase of the work of a prophet. There are 4 passages of scripture to keep in mind when talking about the prophet's predictions of things to come. Number 1, secret things belong to God. There's a verse, Deuteronomy 29:29. And then number 2, God reveals secrets to his prophets, Amos 3 verse 7. And then number 3, unfulfilled predictions made in the name of the Lord are presumptuous. Fulfilled predictions demonstrate that the prophet was sent by God, Jeremiah 28 verse 9. And then number 4, some prophecies are conditional, Jeremiah 18:7-10. So these are the tests of the prophet, according to what's his name? Denton. So he said, Reebok. It's not Adidas. Prophets have been God's chosen spokesmen, and through them he has made known things to come. Hence it is but natural for men to watch with eager interest to see whether such predictions actually come to pass. A failure of fulfillment would obviously become a factor in acceptance or rejection of one claiming to be a prophet. Now it goes to Ellen White. In the work of Ellen G. White, we would expect to find some definite predictions and their equally definite fulfillments. Let us very briefly look at some of them. I will not bring many, I just bring one. It has to do with the Rochester wrappings to become worldwide encircling delusions. When did the wrappings occur? 1848. So it was, these mysterious wrappings began with the Fox sisters in New York State in 1848. What did Ellen G. White say about this? And take note of the dates. 1848, the wrappings were there. And then we will see later on March 24, 1849, this is according to Reebok, Ellen White made the following prediction. And it is written in Early Writings 43. I saw that the mysterious knockings in New York and other places was the power of Satan, and that such things would be more and more common, clothed in a religious garb so as to lull the deceived to greater security and to draw the minds of God's people, if possible, to those things and cause them to doubt the teachings and the power of the Holy Spirit. What date is this? 1849. 1 year after the famous wrappings. Now, August 24, 1850, Ellen White said again, I saw that soon that the mysterious wrappings would spread more and more, that Satan's power would increase, and some of his devoted followers would have power to work miracles. Early Writings, page 59. So in 1849, In 1850, Ellen G. White already said something about the growth of the mysterious wrappings. And again, in January 10, 1854, Mrs. White added these further details. I saw the wrapping delusion, what progress it was making, and if it were possible, it would deceive the very elect. Satan will have power to bring the appearance of a form before us, purporting to be our relatives and friends that now sleep in Jesus. It will be made to appear as though they were present. The words they uttered while here, which we were familiar with, will be spoken. The same tone of voice. You can speak a little Batangueño, a little Bisaya. The tone would be familiar. Will be spoken. And the same tone of voice which they had while living will fall upon the ear. Now, this is very tempting because you will not only see, you will see also the mannerisms. Maybe you can even smell the favorite perfume of the individual and the voice, the intonation. And he will even know where to go in your house, where you keep the secret things. He will know. And it says, all this is to deceive the saints and ensnare them into the belief of this delusion. Wow. What year was that? 1854. So Ellen G. White said something about the wrappings in 1848, in 1849, and 1854. Now, this is the clencher. Remember these days, according to Reebok, remember the states of these predictions, 1849, 50, 54. In America, then, there were no mediums. There were no trances or spirit messages, no organized groups or companies of spiritualists. It was a bold prediction, but every word has come to pass. Recently, a book entitled Centennial Book of Modern Spiritualism America, dated 1848 to 1948, was issued by the National Spiritualist Association of the USA. Imagine they even have a spiritual association which summarizes this history and achievements. Spiritualism now claims, that was in the time when the book was written, now claims millions of believers, eminent judges, physicians, scientists, editors, writers, poets, clergymen, educators, and statesmen of various countries. What if a judge wants to have help as far as the decision is concerned? He will ask the spirits. What if a lawman wants to come up with a bill or a law and he needs help? Who does he go to? To the Spirit. According to the Declaration of Principles adopted by the National Spiritualist Association, number 1, these are the Declaration of Principles. Those who have passed on are conscious. When they say pass on, those who died. They are not dead. They're conscious. Number 2, and communicate with us. Because they are conscious, they can communicate with us. Therefore, number 3, spiritualism is God's message to mortals, declaring that there is no death, that all who have passed on still live, and there is hope in the life beyond for the most sinful. Look at that. This is Satan's work. Clearly, this is Satan's work. Then, spiritualism teaches that every soul will progress through the ages to high, sublime, and glorious. Today, all of this is history that records what? The fulfillment of another of Ellen G. White predictions. There was no spiritualism in the United States in 1849, in 1850, in 1854. But God, through Ellen G. White, already told us what will happen as far as spiritualism is concerned. God is warning us individually, as families, as a church. Satan wants to pull anyone and everyone he can to perdition. That's the reason why it is very important for us to be well versed as far as this study is concerned. I just hope that you did not mind me getting out of the text that is there, because for me, we'll appreciate more with a little more knowledge about this. So with that, this ends our Bible marking class, or I'll say Bible study. Yes, Inday.
Question. Like, what can we say about the Balaam episode? Like, in the Numbers 24, it says that he was doing enchantment. He was only asked to curse. But then, like, eventually, it says that he was, it says in 24 verse 1, when Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he went not as at other times to seek for enchantment. So was he like doing some spiritualism thing in the heart, or no?
You know what? If I look into the problem of Balaam, the truth is, he was torn between two lovers. He was torn between the lovers because here he was promised money and riches and honor. So he said, wait, although he was holding already the gifts, wait, I will ask the Lord. He knew already that the Lord will say no. But he is still waiting for the Lord to say, go and curse my people. He was what? He was playing with the devil. He was actually playing with the devil. He was hoping that the Lord will give him permission to go and curse the people of Israel, when he knew already that God will not do it. But because of the bribe that is given to him, he was still hoping against hope. And when God said, you what? You go, and you will see what you will see, but say only what I want you to say. So he went, still hoping that God will say something that is against what he knew that God will not say. So there are instances when people have already things in mind that they want to achieve. And they know already that this is against the will of God. And they still push on wanting to have that. And they want to have some help outside of themselves. If they are so determined, you know what? Satan could give that help. Satan could give that help. And they are falling into the trap of the enemy. Any other question or any enlightenment to what Sister Inday asked?
There's none, but I just realized that the wrappings that this is white, because before I became a Seventh-day Adventist, I used to watch the movies, and I watched that movie, Poltergeist,
when you were saying that, I was like terrified that that is the origin. That's probably why the movie industry put that in the movie, because as we know with Pastor that they are part of the New Age movement, they know all this spiritualism kind of thing. So when you the wrappings, I kind of like in my mind. So it is really from the enemy. And if we like me as innocent, and I'm not a Christian, let alone not even a Seventh-day Adventist, and I go watch these movies. Oh my goodness, Pastor! As I recall my past, I don't know how God led me into this movement, to our church. It was like a miracle that I found the Seventh-day Adventist.
God works in mysterious ways, sister. Yes, Isma. Before you say your piece, I might forget what I want to tell you. The New Age movement, one of the more famous or most famous mediums is Shirley MacLaine.
Yes.
Shirley MacLaine is one of the most famous mediums in the New Age movement. You can read about that, and she does not deny that she is a medium of the New Age movement. Yes, Isma.
I think I shared this already with you, Pastor. My grandfather was an Adventist in our province, and he used to minister with drunkards, in that small barrio. Every Friday, he would visit these neighbors, would listen to him about, about the Bible. And then that house, I was still small. There are times when you hear, like stones rolling on the roof. Like, in the Philippines, these are steel, so you will hear it. And sometimes you will hear like a big stone drop on top of the house. And then every night they would talk to my grandfather, and they would ask him to stop ministering these people, or we'll kill you. And then this evil spirit, whenever we visit them on Friday night, because they're in the bar and they're living along the shore in the sea, they would tell him, your children are coming. So before we get to the house, my grandmother will start preparing the food for us. And sometimes my dad would ask, how did you know? They told me. And then one time, because every night, whenever we're there, he would wake up my parents and said, they're here. They're talking to me right now. They said, they're telling me to, again, stop what I'm doing, but I'm not afraid with them. So he continued for many months, and then all of a sudden, one day, not during that night, he was bound by two, scary spirits, and they wrestled to him, and they said, we will kill you if you will not promise to stop. And he said, I won't stop. My God is, powerful than you. So that night, that day, they left. We never heard about the stones, the bothering, but it took years before they stopped. Because my grandparents, my lolo would think that these are just neighbors who are trying to play, click on him just to stop. One in his, intellectual, thing that he thought maybe these are human. I'll put some sands, where the windows are, and he rake it so he would see if there are traces of, footsteps. But lo and behold, he did not see any footsteps. But that night they were talking to him, like they were, like my Lola would say that here they are. They said they have, knife and to kill me tonight. Or every time that they were there and were visiting my grandparents, he would say, they're here. So my parents would listen, but we cannot hear anything. Or we can hear him talking to them, but they stopped. I think they decided to stop because they cannot stop me. They said, "You can kill me, but you will not stop me from doing this." It was scary.
Thank you for sharing, Isma. Let me share. Anyway, we are here already, so I don't know if you are hurrying to go to the mall, but it's not yet sunset. So I'll just share one experience. I was in my junior year in college. Pastor Vic Ariola was 1 year my junior. And we are doing evangelistic meetings in a barrio. Very rural barrio. But the oldest, not really the oldest, but the one who they respect the most in the barrio was someone who had anting-anting, amulet. It actually 3. He could go through the bamboo groove, pass without getting hurt. He could go to another place in an instance. He could use his fist to open coconuts. He was very strong. These were given to him by the spirits. And when we were giving Bible study to this old man, the 3 spirits were there. And then this Pastor Dickman said to the old man, "Tatang, will they show themselves to us?" And you know what? The old man said, "Do not say that, my son, because they are hearing you. You cannot see them. I can see them. They are hearing you." And you know what? We went to sleep that night. The floor is made of bamboo. So there are slits. And you know what they did? They pulled all the blankets through the slits. They didn't want us to sleep. Yeah, they pulled the blankets. And when Pastor Ariola saw that his blanket was being pulled out, he went to the old man and said, "Lolo, Tatang, please tell them to go away." And he had still the what? He had still the power to tell them to stop. You know, when he decided to become a Seventh-day Adventist, he left them, and they disturbed him for many, many, many nights. So they were very, very powerful. And there was a time when, because it was a farming village, there was a time when the rebels were stealing carabaos from the neighborhood, from the farmers. So one night, one carabao, one night, one carabao. So he said, "Okay, let's make a deal. I make a fence area in front of my house. At the end of the day, you bring your carabaos, and I will see to it that no carabao will be stolen. But you must pay the price." And what is the price? My friends, they are very good in drinking coffee. They have to have supply of coffee the whole night. And you know what? They had the coffee boiling the whole night. And they could see the cup going up and the cup being tilted and the coffee going down to somewhere, but they couldn't see who was drinking. But of course, the old man knew who they were. When he finally surrendered his life to God, it was a very, very hard struggle for him. But like the grandpa of Ishmael, when he said, "No, I will turn against my conviction right now. I have surrendered my life to Jesus Christ," they left.